Alternative. So we're going to let each of them speak for a little while to kind of lay out their ideas of what it means to build a socialist movement under Trump, and then we'll have some time for discussion and questions in the middle before they wrap up again at the end. So with no further ado, Philip, would you like to kick us off?
On now? Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you all so much for being here. It's a very exciting event to see so many people, so many fresh faces, and I think it's a sign of the times of the growing interest and opportunity for building the socialist movement, becoming, the advanced wave of becoming, hopefully, tidal wave of socialist forces. So it's quite exciting the whole day. But I think, obviously we do not have enough people in this room, do we? And building a socialist movement that's actually serious about socialism, which I think is what we aim to do, that's actually serious about overthrowing capitalism, that means we actually have to really grapple with and look at what is it going to take to build a much bigger and much stronger movement. Obviously we made some real steps forward in the past period. There's been a growth of socialist forces in the U.S., but it's still a drop in the bucket in a society of 330 million people, in the most powerful capitalist country in the world. So it's not, we have to have a serious strategy, serious thought, and a clear set of politics to actually be able to make a real difference in the course of U.S. history. So I'm going to lay out a few different points from the perspective of socialist alternative, I'm sure. There's a lot of things that we'll agree on, maybe some things that we'll have a good discussion and debate about. And I think a lot of the points were already made in the first session, but I'm going to just try to bring things together a little bit here and add a few things. I think the defining question, which was reflected in the first session, for if we're talking about building the socialist movement, has to be linked with the reality that we face here in the U.S. today. That the burning question that all political trends are going to have to address is what is the most effective strategy to fight Trump? And it's within that context that the socialist movement will either prove itself as an effective force, as something really to contribute, or not. And that's the key, I think, litmus test, not just a set of nice ideas, but can it actually make a living, vibrant contribution to building this movement that is everyone can feel is necessary. And I think that also has to be located in the fact that there is there's an enormous sea of resistance against Donald Trump. We can thank him for that we have an unprecedented mass mobilization, politicization of U.S. society. He's acted, in one sense, as a great unifier, bringing together all the various strands of discontent and protest movements that were divided against one common hated target in the form of a quite despicable individual, Donald Trump. But we also need to recognize within that there's many different political trends that reflect a wide variety of political approaches and that actually at base represent different social interests. That we're united against Trump, but there's a division within the anti-Trump movement. And I think socialists have a critical, vital, essential contribution in that discussion, where we have to accept, as was made before, the idea that we need unity in action. We can't let those differences get in the way of having a unity amongst all those who are prepared to fight against Trump, but also having an open and vigorous debate within our movement about the different ideas and different strategies and program to fight Trump and actually eventually bring him down, which I think has to be our aim. And I really just want to list off, I think, 5 key elements that I think socialists have a unique contribution. And not only socialists, other forces on the left will also bring these forward, but I think socialists have the clearest, most conscious understanding of it, can help prepare and equip our movement to be clear about. And one, I think, most elementary, but actually a critical starting point, and it's the sharpest contrast between the left and the liberal establishment, which does oppose Trump for their own reasons, is that we base ourselves on resistance, not collaboration. And we saw that very starkly shown after the election with people like liberal luminary spokespeople like Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama saying that that Trump deserves our support, we need to give him a chance, we want to work with him, that we need to say is a fundamentally deadly strategy, right? And the starting point for the left in the anti-Trump movement has to be waging a relentless ideological struggle against that idea of collaboration. We need a bold resistance in all the different arenas against Donald Trump and the billionaire class that he represents. I think a second critical point, which again is not just socialists, but I think also socialists are very clear about this, came up in the first session, is building a mass movement. That we can't wait for we do not have the luxury of waiting for the 2018 elections or the 2020 elections to try to remove Donald Trump or the Republicans. Our focus needs to be now building a mass movement in the streets that can block his agenda, like we've seen with the Muslim ban and with Trump Care, but also with the aim of eventually bringing him down. It's possible we don't even have to wait till 2018 or 2020 to drive this monster from office.
Right.
And that's linked to a vision of building mass collective struggle, which is part of our overriding task as socialists of building the power of the 99%, working people and all those marginalized by the capitalist elite. And that's the burning litmus test for socialists in all strategic and tactical questions. Do they help enlarge our movement with more people engaging in collective action? Do they raise the level of organization, consciousness, and confidence of our side to fight back? Or do they isolate and weaken us? I think the third thing is the question of what kind of tactics do we deploy? The need for determined fighting tactics. That includes, and a critical starting point is mass protests like we saw on January 21st, the women's marches. But also we need to go beyond just routine protests that are symbolic. And we need to find ways to disrupt the normal functioning of the economy and threaten the profits of big business. And a number of speakers spoke about that earlier, about the importance of May 1st, of beginning to stretch our muscles in that direction. Obviously, we saw elements of that on March 8th, on International Women's Day. We saw that the airport occupations were a prime example of that, where we need to be promoting and not just letting that happen unconsciously, but we need a lead in the anti-Trump movement of advocating the idea of student walkouts, blockades, sit-down protests to block deportations and immigrant detention facilities. But also our most important power is to harness the social power of workers to shut down production, distribution, and services through workplace actions, including strikes. A fourth element is what kind of program you put forward, what kind of demands. To inspire, if our strategic aim is to build mass movements that can truly shape U.S. society, that requires numbers. It requires millions and tens of millions to take action. What kind of program will inspire people to take that kind of action? And for that, I think obviously our starting point has to be defense. We also want to block and defend against all the litany of attacks from Trump and the Republicans, be they be on immigrants, on LGBTQ people, on healthcare, etc., on public education. But we cannot, like the liberal establishment of the Democratic Party, restrict ourselves just to a purely defensive program. To mobilize the tens of millions that are necessary, we also have to articulate demands and policies that would represent, if they're fulfilled, a dramatic improvement in the living conditions of ordinary working people here in the United States.
Yes.
So we've seen that play out very clearly on the debate on health care. The most effective opponents of Trump care, the most effective, obviously, the left should not be ultra-left. We should oppose the Republican attempt to repeal Obamacare. But we oppose that from a critical standpoint, not with dressing it up, not with illusions, not like pretending and telling people lies that Obamacare is wonderful and with a status quo is great. As Hillary Clinton said, America is already great. We're far more effective in fighting the repeal of Obamacare if we link that to a vision of extending it, going forward to Medicare for all. And we've seen that play out concretely, the most effective advocate has been Bernie Sanders in taking the case to defend Obamacare and extend it to Medicare for all, taking that to Trump country as opposed to people like Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and Hillary Clinton, who have utter failures at winning a majority of working people in this country. Finally, we need a strategic orientation on that, not so much at this stage, unfortunately, socialists. We're not leading this movement. We're not a dominant force in the anti-Trump movement, but the anti-Trump movement as a whole, the mass movement, needs to have an orientation to splitting Donald Trump's base, to winning away a section of workers who mistakenly were fooled into voting for Donald Trump in the last election. Some of them are unwinnable. Some of them are hardened reactionaries who we're not going to win over. But there are millions of working people who were fooled into voting for Donald Trump, who can be won to a clear program, a class appeal against the billionaire class. And we've seen that again with Bernie Sanders' appeal going into Trump country in his town halls, calling for Medicare for all, calling for a $15 hourly wage, talking about having a major, over $1 trillion investment in infrastructure to create jobs, 15 million jobs. And demands like that, not on the basis of downplaying, not on the basis of trying to have agreement on the lowest common denominator, of ignoring the racism and sexism and xenophobia that Trump is whipping up. We should absolutely, that needs to be combated and fought against. But also trying to reach out and appeal to those layers and isolate the most right-wing elements behind Trump. And I think that will also require a political debate within our movement against, on the one hand, the liberal establishment, which if they are allowed to lead the anti-Trump movement, will be deadly, will be poisonous, will make it much, much harder to win over that section of Trump voters who could be won over, and we saw that in the last election. Hillary Clinton was incapable of doing that. But also within our movement, some leftist trends, some who have, particularly those informed by a trend within privilege theory, who also write off white working class people who voted for Trump and see them as lost forever, as reactionaries who are benefiting from the racism and sexism in our society. I think that requires a political and ideological debate within our movement that Marxists and socialists are most equipped to answer. So, coming out of all of that, I just want to wrap up on the anti-Trump movement and then a few proposals of how socialists can make further breakthroughs going forward on the political plane. But wrapping up on the anti-Trump movement, I think we have to be conscious as socialists and be organized that we are not, the anti-Trump movement is not some happy-go-lucky family who are all united. We do need to unite against Trump. We don't want to have unnecessary divisions. But we also need a rigorous debate and discussion in that movement. And we need to recognize there's big elements in the anti-Trump movement who will lead us down a path of defeat. That we need to build a strong left wing of the anti-Trump movement. And that has to have a socialist backbone of it that's clear on these issues. And it's not just based on a loose, vague sentiment, but it has to be organized and conscious to fight for leadership of the anti-Trump movement, to make sure that we're not led by the Hillary Clintons and fellow friends who will lead this movement into making a much longer, more painful path to defeating Donald Trump. And that requires socialists to have clear proposals, clear policies that they systematically campaign for and argue for, and build conscious and organized support within our movement, and not allow, let's be clear, the liberal forces are quite organized. They have a quite clear network through the mass media, through the foundations, through academia, through their leadership of different social movement organizations, and they will push very hard for their interests and their agenda, and we have to be just as organized. Now, finally, I just wanted to also address, I think that's a big part of building the socialist movement, unfortunately, in the next period, is that battle within the anti-Trump movement, of millions of people looking to take action, moving to struggle, and there'll be a real thirst for ideas and strategy and policies for what will be most effective. And socialists need to be there, they need to have a clear profile, be present, and be confident putting forward our politics and building a base of support within that movement. The other side of it also is I think we have a big opening on the electoral plane and on the political plane. And that's not for a narrow-minded view that the way to change society is in elections or politics, as most people see them in elections, but as a tool to organize, as a tool to build support and build understanding and build our forces. And there's the background to that is we have an unprecedented for many decades interest in socialist ideas in the U.S. right now. More millennials support socialism than capitalism. That is a sea change. That is a major change in U.S. society. We've seen a tremendous growth of democratic socialist America, now I think over 20,000 members, which is to only be welcomed as a fantastic development of thousands of people wanting to get organized and get active and build the socialist movement. I think we would agree that interest in socialism goes beyond that. There's a big audience that is drawing socialist conclusions, that wants to build a socialist movement. How do we reach them? How do we get that from a vague sentiment into a more distinct, organized, concrete form? And I think one of the best tools we have is running independent socialist candidates for office. We've done that. We've shown that here in Seattle, how socialists can actually speak to a broad audience, really popularize socialist ideas, and make socialist politics concrete and visible and real by standing candidates. Not with illusions that by electing we're going to overthrow capitalism, but using it as a platform to organize and build support. And we've done that with Kshama Sawant, and now we're seeing after years of agitating and hammering away on the idea that the Democratic Party is a dead end for building, for if you want radical change, we now are seeing more candidates follow that path that we've helped prepare of running independent of the Democratic Party, refusing corporate money, running as independent left candidates. You saw that earlier today with Nikita Oliver and John Grant running for 2 out of the 3 main city elections this year. And whether they win or lose, I think we can be confident they're going to run credible, vibrant campaigns that will help put key issues on the table, push the establishment to the left, and build support for a social justice activist agenda. Can we do that more nationally? Can groups like Socialist Alternative, but also DSA, which now has over 20,000 members, come together, other forces on the left, like the ISO, and identify, let's be modest, can we find 10 candidates throughout the United States where we can run vigorous, viable, credible campaigns as independent socialists, independent of the Democratic Party and Republican Party, if there's any confusion about that, but openly as socialists in local elections this year as a way, again, to organize and tap into the growing interest in socialist ideas and building the socialist movement, pushing the Democratic Party to the left, etc. In our view, in Socialist Alternative, that would be a step towards building a new socialist party in this country, a broad socialist party. The interest is there now, and we think, for a party of 50, 100,000 people as a socialist party in the next period to be built in the United States. That will not happen automatically, though. It does require seizing that opportunity and building it, and we want to work together with forces like the Democratic Socialist of America, which obviously now are the driving engine of that process, and take the lead in at a certain stage launching a broader socialist party that would be open to different trends, including we would hope, Socialist Alternative, the ISO, other forces on the left, but most importantly, that would reach out and bring together the tens of thousands of new people who are not yet organized, who want to get involved in the socialist movement. And I think a broad socialist party like that would be important, that there be the right for political tendencies and groupings. We're not going to agree about everything, that we can come together and unite in a broad party as socialists, but the freedom to debate, discuss different forces, put forward their ideas in an organized way, but also have an orientation to a much bigger audience, the millions of workers, the progressive workers in the U.S. who still haven't yet drawn socialist conclusions, who are looking to Bernie Sanders and the left-wing Democrats to try to push the Democrats or transform the Democratic Party into a so-called People's Party, and have a dialogue, a friendly dialogue with those forces over the next few years. In our view, and just to wrap up on this, the Democratic Party will fight tooth and nail against those efforts. They will be blocked. They will not allow the left to take over their party and their institution without an almighty struggle. We saw a taste of that in the Bernie Sanders campaign last year. If the left was to succeed in seriously transforming the Democratic Party and making it independent of corporate influence, not taking any corporate money, a grassroots party that has a mass membership, that has democratic control of the party, that has a clear anti-corporate left platform. We should not think there's anything good in that party unless they can achieve those things.
Exactly.
If they achieve those things, 90% of all elected Democrats in this country would flee. They would split from that party. And in essence, you would see a new party formed if they actually were able to carry out that program. Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer will never accept that agenda, and if the left was to win a majority in the Democratic Party, they would rather split than be part of that. So no matter what, there's going to be a new party needs to be built in this country in the next period. It'll either be built outside the Democratic Party, or maybe, which I think is far more likely, through a split. But either way, a socialist force can have a dialogue and act as a catalyst to speed that up and be part of that. And that's what I think has to be the medium-term vision that at least Socialist Alternative is looking towards, to try to push that process forward as fast as possible, while also openly and energetically trying to build the socialist forces as part of that process that have a clear vision of where we're going and can and prepare our movements for the battles that are coming.